You're running a shop floor, not a Pinterest interest board or a fantasy football league. You don't need inspiration, you need things to work. So welcome to Build Your Way, a podcast from Cetec ERP. This is a show for manufacturers who are in it every day, from quoting and shipping jobs to troubleshooting quality and material shortages, all while staying a step ahead of what's next. We bring you stories from the field, lessons that stick, and strategies that actually scale to help you build better. Let's get to work.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Build Your Way podcast here from Cetec ERP. I'm Taylor Wagon.
I'm Scott Ryan, and this time we have Ben Brock with Brock Industries. Ben, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Can I start with my book?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a book, and as is kind of the bit here, I'm pulling a book from my little office bookshelf and talking about it. And today, he reaches off camera and brings a large coffee table book, which is titled Motorcycle. And this is actually a true coffee table book from a, what do you call it? An exhibit at the Met in New York City. They did a whole bunch on the art of the motorcycle. Sorry, the Guggenheim. Apologies to New York museums here. And what it is it goes through like the history of motorcycles. Now I confess that I'm a little bit of a partisan here. I do ride a motorcycle to work every day. And I enjoy riding in, other places with friends and, doing these long motorcycle journeys in distant realms. So this for me is like, really just kind of neat. You get to page through and see how motorcycles have changed over the years. And, I've ridden maybe one of these, but
That one looks like a baby sonogram.
this one?
This was my first thought.
Wow. Well, that's on the brain, huh?
Is a little bit on the brain. Yeah.
The reason that this is kind of relevant for manufacturing is maybe a little evident because it's the beauty of machines, right? The things that you do that are what is it? It's a very simplified machine that does one thing and it goes fast. And as a motorcycle rider, I really enjoy the feeling of being on something that has very little frills. It's very much you in the air, and you're kind of flying a little bit. Once you have this moment, you've learned to ride, and you can work your hands and your feet and your weight, and it's all together. And it's like at some point you've done it enough that you don't have to think about any of that, and it's just zooming through the air. It's great. I really, really enjoy it. And it is a thing that a machine does that is very dedicated to a purpose. And I think because of that simplicity and dedication, it has a beauty to it. Now, Ben, our guest today, has a company that makes machines. So if you can tell us a little bit about the machines that your company makes and maybe try to make it sound as though they are also lyrically beautiful like a motorcycle.
Well, thanks, Taylor. We actually think we have really good-looking equipment that anybody should want, particularly in their front yard. But no, we make equipment that produces hot mix asphalt. We supply parts for those pieces of equipment, and we do infield services. So construction, taking plants down, moving them, relocating them. Hot mix asphalt is the stuff that most people drive on. 93% of the roads in the U.S. are hot mix asphalt. I know you guys might have your fair share of concrete in the greater Austin area, but asphalt is the predominant leader for materials that you would drive your car on. And so when it's taken to the job and it's paved, before it gets into that truck, it hopefully would go through our equipment. And so that's what we do. Making asphalt's a lot like making a cake. You take different sizes of rock, blend it together. You weigh it, then you add hot liquid asphalt into it, mix it. You can also recycle it. So it might be milled off the road. You probably see those machines that might take 2, 3, or 4 inches off the road. That material is taken back to an asphalt plant and recycled, usually. Depends on the state spec of how much you can do it. In Texas, in the private mix, typically you can see 40 to 50% of asphalt recycled, which is, pretty good number. There are some plants that will do 100%, but that's pretty rare because the amount of recycle you need to do that. But all that being said, asphalt is the most recycled product on the planet by weight, and many people don't know that. So it's a very environmentally sustainable process, and it's good for us to drive on because our cars like smooth roads, and so do our rear ends. So it's pretty good.
So do our motorcycles.
That's true.
Yeah, motorcycles like them. So unless you're off-roading in the Baja, right? But other than that, it's a smooth road is good for everybody.
Yeah.
Before I dive in with questions about Brock, want to give you a chance to your podcast. So you may have noticed this, I don't know, 5-something years ago when I was on site to implement. Brock was, I think, my second on site. Yeah. So, I don't know if it was evident or not, but
no, you did a great job. So well done.
But we chatted way back when about, we really thought you were a podcast guy. You had some good podcasts, but, are you also a reader? I'd love to get your podcast and or book recommendations. If you have a couple.
Well, I've become less podcast oriented the more we've gotten busy here. So I haven't been keeping up as well there. On the book side, it's an old one. It's not well known. But what I would say, if somebody's in business, it's a pretty good basic background book. And it's called The Real Business 101. I can't remember the fellow that wrote it. It was Jim something, so forgive me for that. But The Real Business 101. And it's a fellow that was in YPO, Young Presidents Organization. And as he got older, he thought, man, I want to record on the things I've learned in business and how to do business. And I envisioned him sitting in his office, leaning back in his leather chair, dictating this book that has probably 140 chapters. Yeah, 3 or 4 pages long each, right? And it's like hiring or, credit or buying a company or, whatever. I mean, it could be anything, collecting money. And it's just it reminded me of my father and all the lessons he taught me growing up, how to do business and doing the right thing. And he had one section on how to email, right? And it was like and then all the buzzwords not to use. So it's a good easy read. It's at my level, probably below 8th grade, which is perfect. But it's a good, just basic book. And I actually, when I was in my prior life, I actually bought like 25 copies to give to all of our division presidents. And it was kind of fun to give it to them. And it's a lot of stuff you already know, but it's just good reminders. And so I'll throw that one out as the book.
Yeah, that's great. Real Business 101, not to be confused with Business for Dummies.
Well, yes, or just Business 101 or Fake Business 101.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks, Ben. Okay, the fun stuff. I think the history of Brock is kind of interesting, kind of fascinating. Would you give a little bit of background about how Brock Industries came to be? How did you guys get started?
And when was that?
Yeah.
Sure. So we started the company July 1st, 2020. So we're just over 5 years old now. It was a group of us that all worked together for over probably 2 decades at the prior life company. And I left that. My father started that company and we were public. I was CEO for close to 5.5 years. I think that's right. For better or for worse, my parents passed away, left me in a great position. So fast forward after that, left the company, took about 6 months off. I was happy in my prior life. I just didn't know how tired I was. Because we had operations all over the world, manufacturing plants from Johannesburg, South Africa to Germany to, everywhere really.
Same industry? That was the same industry?
Same industry. So we made, great question, Taylor. So we made equipment that really serviced rock to road. So rock quarry equipment, asphalt paving equipment, the equipment that, the milling equipment we talked about earlier, takes it off the road. Asphalt plant equipment, concrete plants, made those as well. Energy equipment, we had some water drill rigs, oil drill rigs. So we were a multinational, bigger company. So took some time off, funny enough, was part of a group that started a bank, invested in some things better than others, like investing is. And then found out, and my wife was not wanting me in the house, which is a pretty normal deal, I think, when people look semi-retired. So, and the biggest event on that was, and you'll find this out, Scott, if that's on your mind earlier, the vision of the motorcycle. But I was walking through Costco with her one day trying to tell her where to go, and she looked at me like I had three heads. So it was time to do something else. So we found out that this company, small company, was for sale. It really ended up being mostly a press release. They were a small, not well-known company, down to 4 people, but it gave us drawings, a plant that you came to, Scott, which was only 10,000 feet. When I say a plant, it was a converted barn. And a single wide trailer, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. We had a honeymoon tub in one of them. That was my office and our conference room.
Did you ever use the tub?
No, I did not. But Travis, who Scott knows, did use it one time.
I believe that Travis used that tub.
But to give you an idea, I mean, the air conditioning system wasn't working great when we bought the company, and they had a hose, a garden hose with holes in it that they would turn on to cool the roof off when it got hot. But we went and had an air conditioning guy come in and fix it for $400. So, but it gave us a place to start. So by November, we knew a few things. We needed a new facility and we needed an ERP system, right? So we kind of had already started looking for the ERP, just a few months. And so we looked at, we had 20 different, well, probably not that many, 12 or 14 different ERP systems in our prior lives in the companies we had. We were very decentralized, but we just basically went online and said, what are the top 10 ERP systems for a small manufacturing company? And Cetec was on the list. So we did a quick look at it, read about it, did a quick demo on it. It looked like everything else we had seen, like it would do what we needed it to do. And so the free trial made it easy. So we went ahead and started it up, and the rest was history for us. But we relocated. We found a building here in Chattanooga where I am today. We bought that building. We were leasing the other place from the daughter of the fellow that we had bought the company from. And so we bought this building. It's 10 times the size of what we had up there in Georgetown, just 30 miles north of here. But and we've grown from there. We didn't know if we'd fill it, but we have filled it. We've been pretty fortunate. Good sales group, good people. We started with the 4 people, me and the other 3 guys, or 3 people that were with us when we bought the company, and they had 4. So we had 8 people on day one. We bought the company debt-free, cash-free. We walked in the door and they thought that meant order-free as well. So we had 0 backlog. We were the smallest company in the world to do what we were supposed to be doing. But it took off pretty quick from there because we had relationships. And so bought the building, and today where we sit, we're at 89 people 5 years later. We have purposely slowed that down. We grew too fast in some years. 3,000% is too much. And so we slowed down trying to get our systems right, figuring out how to, really use Cetec the way, it's designed. We do have a lot of self-inflicted wounds here because we didn't do a formal long-term training for implementation. But we have been doing that over about the last 18 months slowly. And y'all have been awesome with that. But so we're pretty fortunate. And today we have about a 6-month backlog of orders with 80% repeat business, which tells us we're doing what we want to do, which is build quality stuff and give great service if something goes wrong, and then just have good relationships, and that's paying off for us.
Huh. So that's funny. There's a cliche that, well, I don't know if it's a cliche. It's a thing I've heard, and I like to think it's a cliche, but it's maybe not as well known as like hindsight is 20/20 or something. It's lower down the cliche list. But the idea that like your first company, you wait way too long to implement an ERP system, and then the second company, you pick one at the beginning. And this is like you're 4 months in, and you said like, oh, we're gonna get a system. Yeah, that's fascinating. That's how that worked out. What were the things that you feel like you've had to? Man, I've got so many questions. What were the things you feel like you had to undo process wise or ERP wise that you wish you had done earlier?
Well, the number one thing I wish we had done earlier is just had more training. We were running so fast, we just cranked it up and started using it because everybody had come from a lot of our people came from our prior lives. They're all familiar with one kind of ERP system or another, either an Epicor or a Manfact, or there was some SAP in our history. All these guys have run one. So when you crank up Cetec, it's web-based, it's intuitive. Everybody kind of just started using it, but we were using it in silos, right? So everybody thought they were doing the right thing, including myself. But we were just running, frankly, let's cash flow this thing. We're growing so fast. We're not going to worry about detailed numbers. We're just going to keep going. But then you kind of hit a point where, it'd be kind of nice to start drilling down and working on cost and doing those kind of things, which we started doing in the last 12 to 18 months. And so we can't take the next step forward unless we have that data. But the thought process was you can't run a business without, that's the numbers and the data are your instrumentation. If you're a pilot flying a plane and it's cloudy, your instrumentation is the only way to fly. And so that's what the ERP system is for us. We've got to have the data to fly the business. At the end of the day.
So in terms of costing data, you were looking kind of from the P&L, and if you were trying to get to like actual job costing, then be like, well, we'll get there when we get there. For now, you were just focused on shipping, and you weren't gathering all those costs. Okay,
right. Which isn't smart, right? If we were smart, we would have just bogged it down and gone slower and made sure we had everything right. But what we're doing now is making sure of that, right? So that everybody from the beginning, as sales, you're dead if sales doesn't quote it right. That's first off, and costing, and then you got to get engineering to put the bills in right, so purchasing to buy the right stuff, and then we're just now getting into the barcoding, which is great. It's working great. But you don't have a chance if everybody doesn't do it right entering the info. And we're finally getting to the point where we have a chance. So it's good. Sorry about that. I probably interrupted. You look like you had another question, but
no. I'm like, this is great to hear. So when you actually, you made a comment, it sounds like you intentionally slowed growth for a bit. And what did that look like? Did you go to your sales guy and be like, hey, stop selling, go take a month off or something?
Well, it really, the conversation, and he knows, and Scott knows Travis, and Travis, when he was born, he was peddling. This fella can sell, and he loves it. He loves the business. He loves the type of business we're in. The conversation with him, he got it. Like he's earned in equity to the business. He's a partner. He understood where we were because he had manufacturing as well. But he doesn't now. But I said, look, we got to optimize this place. And I'm not saying don't stop, don't set, add it onto the back of the backlog. In other words, we keep selling, but we've got to get customers to wait with us if they will. And by and large, we've been pretty lucky with that. We have lost some orders because of that, because we have competition with shorter lead times. And that's going to happen. We knew that would happen. It's about like as much as we thought would, but it didn't leave our sales reps without anything to sell, because you can still sell the heck out of parts that don't go through the manufacturing facility. So you can decide to hold at 89 people, but still grow the business through part sales or in-field services sales. So for us, it wasn't like okay, we're just not going to grow at all. We made that call to slow it down, and we're still going to be plus 20% year over year. So, but that, part of that is that our construction has grown and our part sales have grown, and so, cause you can't, sales guys need to sell, cause that's their own commission. So we couldn't completely cut that off, but that doesn't grow headcount, and that doesn't, that keeps the manufacturing side kind of at a constrained level so that we can do the things we've been doing. And we find things that we're doing, wrong. And then we'll find things that, hey, Scott, what is this going on in the system? And you guys are so good. Your team is so good at taking phone calls and helping us work through an issue. And I would say that 99% of the time it's us doing something wrong. But the 1% of the time there's a glitch, it's like, we got it. We'll take care of it. Getting you guys to get it fixed. And that's all we ask for out of any supplier. But with a ERP supplier, having been through it a lot in my prior life, that's not completely normal. I mean, that's a good thing. And that's why we're really happy with what we got.
Yeah, that 1% of the time, it kind of pains me to have to say it, but did you say it's not your asphalt?
Yeah. Well, that's the bumper sticker, right? The guy, we were building both, and we had one of the concrete guys from one of our customers come in that also had asphalt plants. And we used to have bumper stickers that said asphalt is smoother than concrete. And that's all it said. And then he wanted to replace it with the bumper sticker that said, if your driveway is not concrete, it's your own asphalt.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was working with somebody else in the road paving and testing world at some point, and it was funny because they'd go travel doing field service type of things, and then they'd all comment on what the roads were like. And it's like, oh, garbage, just concrete everywhere, It's amazing, you think like, oh, how was the weather in Topeka or whatever? And it's like, oh, garbage, concrete everywhere. It's like,
I think we'll end up probably doing some work with concrete plants in our long-term history here, down, in the future. But, it does get testy when you get the two industries in the same room.
Yeah. There's no love lost.
Yeah. I have mostly a self-indulgent anecdote about the Georgetown, Tennessee facility, the converted barn.
With the bathtub.
Yeah, this was 2020, peak COVID, and we're in this little double wide, and I'm, in an office, and somebody starts coughing, and and starts going around, and they don't show up the next day, and then so I got COVID in the double wide, in the Taj Mahal,
the Taj Mahal
trailer. That's right. Yeah.
Garage Mahal.
Garage. Yeah. And instead of getting to fly home, I had to rent a car and drive back from from Chattanooga as I'm like fevery, and I can't I'm like trying to figure out how do I sneak into this Starbucks to use the restroom, and like,
we can't stop here. This is a bad country.
Don't look at anybody, but don't make eye contact, just kind of shamefully.
We didn't have a choice, though. We were a manufacturing company. We're starting up, and thankfully, just about everybody got it right. But everybody, was better in the end. Thankfully, everybody got through it okay. And look, we gave everybody the option not to be there in person. Everybody's like, "No, we're good. Let's," look, in Tennessee, it only happened for 2 days, and then everybody went back to normal. It was an interesting time to start that business, and we started the bank about the same time. Our group did so. And both, thankfully, knock on wood, have been okay.
Oh, I mean, that's fantastic. So what's next? At what point are you stable, or do you feel like you have your feet under you and, you're on solid paving to take the next steps of, opening the taps a little bit again?
So we're getting fairly close to that. Inventory is critical to any of these manufacturing businesses, and we want to have turns in the 5 to 7 range for what we do. We've been living in that range, but knowing what it is and not having to adjust it is another thing, and a lot of our wounds in that have been self-inflicted. So again, we just took an inventory, the best one we've had. I think we're a couple more away from that. Like to have that behind us, making sure that we put our hours in the right jobs all the time, because we're tracking hours versus estimated hours, and now those are getting more believable. Our overall P&L, monthly, is believable now. We're getting that by the 10th to the 15th day of every month, which we can run this business off of. but we need to believe and understand our gross margins. And that includes the purchase items, which the inventory has to be right. All the bills have everything going to the right jobs, which we've done a lot of good work on that in the last 6 months. So all that to say, I think we're probably 3 to 4 months feeling comfortable to say, okay, let's ramp a little bit more. And now that could change. So we've been pushed to quote some much bigger projects than we normally do by customers that have basically said, they've convinced us that they'll be the right ones for us to do that with. And so if those happen, that will kick that process off a couple months earlier than that. But we may or may not get those projects. That'll be customer dependent.
So yeah, one of the wrinkles that maybe is different here that, like Ben has said, like getting the bills and the bill materials in, is they're designing it as they're building it.
As in the first time? Like, is it repeat build after that? Or is it always ETO, engineer to order per job?
Always. Even the repeat, and Ben can correct me, even the repeat is like, 80% might be similar, but that 20% is significant and has a significant
decent amount of engineering for every sale.
We're highly customized. We build to order. We are pirates. We copy and replace. Of course, we don't copy, patented stuff, no intellectual property stuff. But if you look behind me in the pictures behind me, rarely do we ever build the same thing twice. We might build the same size of something, but then it has a different, like there's a bag house behind me in one of the pictures, the ductwork from that to the next piece that the air flows through is always at a different place. So all the ductwork's all different. It's all layout dependent. And then customers have desires, and we said, look, if we don't think it'll hurt you in the field, we'll build it for you. So we are highly customized. We have some base standards if somebody just wanted what we do. And there's some changes in those things that are great for customers and us, helps it easier to be worked on. That's more of a sales pitch comment than anything, but generally we're copy replace or custom to what a customer wants.
Yeah. I want to pull back a couple, minutes, seconds. Time is,
relative.
We know it.
It's a flat time is a flat circle.
Wow. You mentioned that 5 to 7 turns is about what you'd expect for your industry. When he says turns, that's inventory turns. How often you're basically cycling through the entire value of your inventory in a year, and so that number that you have a target already for that, which is amazing because you have industry experience. A lot of people have no idea how many turns they should have. Obviously, a distributor, they want that number as high as possible. The fact that you are an engineering company with a mix of some like base product and some like per job ETO kind of work, 5 to 7 is actually a little higher than I would have expected. And is that because you end up buying really most of the material to the job, so you don't have to stock a lot of that because you can push that lead time to the customer and say, we'll acquire what we need when we need it?
That's exactly right. And our purchasing guys, they laugh at me because I'll walk by their office about twice a week and stick my head in and tell them that just in time is not a city in China. And that we don't want it a day before we need it. And so they do a nice job of that. But we, again, though, we have a parts business, right? So if we buy a motor for what we use, then somebody else may need a motor for a replacement motor on something that's in the field. Main thing we do there is drop ship from our suppliers. Our suppliers are holding inventory and they're drop shipping for us. So that's how you can get the turns up, is just trying not to keep it here. And that, look, that eats up cash. And if you're growing, cash is king. And our guys have done a nice job of utilizing our suppliers' inventory, and they're happy with that. Our suppliers are, because that's straight out of their inventory that they already have in stock.
So what inventory are you generally holding? Raw metal or?
So we order metal by the job. So raw steel is by the job. We try to get here a day or two before we need to start either cutting it or rolling it or whatever. Because we can take a 10-foot wide, 1-inch thick piece of steel and roll it here. So, or cut, get on our burning table and cut parts out. And And the same we do for any purchase items is just try to get them here a day or two before. We place a purchase order. Since we have visibility 6 months out right now, we're trying to stage our purchase orders and say, look, we're going to order this now, but we want it in May, or we want it in, April or whatever. And that, what helps us do that is an ERP system called Cetec. So there you go. I mean, because you can't do that with spreadsheets. I mean, you just can't. You got to have the production schedule there. That's visible to everybody through Cetec, and be able to, Now, there's also a lot of meetings, so we don't completely rely on the ERP independently. Our production team meets for at least 30 minutes a day together and just goes through, and we print out the production schedule out of Cetec, and we go through everything that's live in the shop in the next 3 weeks after that.
Well, that's what has been like pulling that back is like as you're the drawings are going into the system, like, and they're going straight to the floor. There's no, so like engineering has been this like how do we get this in faster and faster, and we've tried copying bombs, but again, because everything is so custom. So
what are they designing in?
I think the engineers kind of do they get to still pick their own tool?
So yeah, we've had a hodgepodge, but we are we're moving to a 3D software that was developed by the SolidWorks guys. Okay. And it's by PTC is the parent company. It's a cloud-based system, which is great, and it's easy to view on phones and tablets. So we get in the shop, guys could see the 3D models. It's called Onshape. So we're pretty excited about that, but we've got some AutoCAD 2D in there as well now, but we're trying to get everybody to the Onshape. I bought their stock after we bought the software. I mean, it's pretty sharp and it's easy to use, and it doesn't make you buy a $30,000 CAD computer. I think that's the way everything's going to go.
Yeah. When you get there, let me know and we'll explore some CAD to BOM.
Yeah.
There's some integrations that can go straight from Onshape into Cetec and cut out a few steps for Greg, make his life a little easier.
Well, I like making Greg's life hard, but it's okay. We can make it easier.
Yeah, he's been great adapting to solving these things. Yeah.
So, Scott, I believe you mentioned that you have done some work in the last 6 months, kind of helping with some of the problems they've run into, because of 3,000% growth.
Yeah.
What, any takeaways for you? Any things you'd be like, if I had to do it again, I would.
I mean, having been in it from the very beginning, I think this has come up on a few projects is small companies are just like, they're just moving so fast that nobody's writing down processes.
It's the whole tribal knowledge versus defined.
Yeah.
That's the nature of a small company.
You have three, four, maybe 5 sales guys now that are all doing something slightly different. And they're verbally sharing some knowledge, but you hire a new purchasing person or somebody in engineering, and they don't know the right way to enter the bombs. Thankfully, Greg has been around for years and is sharp, understands the system. And so you end up with a few people that can kind of hold things together. Sam has been incredible, that, an operations manager who can kind of connect the pieces and enforce some process changes. But, that the last time I was on site, I think that's where we ended up is let's go write a bunch of just cheat sheets, not even, SOPs. And let's have a Bible of Brock processes in the system that we can hold people accountable to, train them to. And so I think at least on the financial side, that's been useful. I don't know how much anybody else is using them, but
that hits we have a theme, when we talk about companies is like, when they're very young versus mature. And in the middle of that is this adolescent period. And in the same way that it's awkward to be in 8th grade, as a human, the difficulty of moving from capable people who just kind of do their thing to defined processes that people can follow is that adolescent mid period. And it's it's awkward. It's hard. It's difficult. The whole thing, there's acne and hair and your voice is changing.
Yeah. But
You perfectly described where we are right now. I mean, and to your point, Sam has been a godsend. He came from the automotive industry, so he's used to staying right there on the process, and he's got the right demeanor to sell it. Right. I mean, there's demanding it and beating people up, and then there's peddling it and getting people to want to do. What was the other book? The gentle art of getting others to have your way, or whatever that book was. I mean, there's a book like that. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, he does a great job of, hey, here's why it's important. Let's do this. And he's got good buy-in.
Yeah. So a lot of it has been, been talked about the job cost, right? Because once you can capture the job cost, you can roll that to the P&L we've implemented cost centers, profit centers. So now you can see per revenue stream.
That's nice.
You start to see gross margin. You've got to catch, data up and flush things through, but getting the bills and materials in for inventory, getting barcoding, and actually that's been one of the hard things is culturally on the floor is like, they're just going to grab stuff and go. They're moving. They're like, they have a job to do. But getting them to take time to say, okay, I took this, A36, getting them to tell the system how much of what they took is huge. Barcode scanning makes that really fast. And so I'm really excited about Sam implementing that and driving that, because the easier it is, the more likely people will do it. So, that's been a lot of and then cleaning up some of the financial processes and trying to make those, getting to the invoicing, getting people to invoice on time was kind of the first hurdle, maybe a year and a half ago was,
Yeah, I'm a huge believer that, you need to invoice as soon as you possibly can because you want to remove the inventory, but you also want to get the AR.
Yeah. That's what Ben was saying. We're creating the PDF so that we can send it to the customer, but
our days receivables are really good, and all of those things that Scott's describing were self-inflicted wounds by us. The system could do it. We just weren't putting things in right or timely. But I mean, we're around 20 days on our receivables. I mean, our guys collect. I mean, they're good at collecting. Most of it's that far out because of parts. Parts carrying that 30-day terms. So, but if we'll build good stuff, take care of it, we'll get paid. But if we don't, they'll hold it. So anyway.
Cool. Yeah. It's been good. I've enjoyed the Brock team, except Travis. But never.
We should definitely get on the record on that. I agree. He's great. He really is. I mean, we've got a good team. We're very fortunate because you can have all the manufacturing stuff. You can have a Cetec. You can have all equipment in the shop. It all comes back to people. I mean, you can, all this stuff. I mean, you can, and you guys know this. I mean, if you have good people, you'll be all right. And we're very fortunate to have a great team of people that care. And you can't instill caring in people. I mean, they either have it or they're not bringing it. And we're very fortunate to have people that care here.
On a separate, unless you have more business oriented questions, have you made your way up to Knoxville this fall? Seen any games?
So I have not. Our good friend Travis, he's a big time Vol. He's a Vol for life. So yeah, he's been up there. For better or for worse, my wife and I met at Clemson. So this is not our finest moment. And so, but the good news is I have a son at SMU, and they're hanging in there okay. So we are in Dallas a lot. So I'll claim them this year. How's that?
Yeah, that's what I remember. Is I think you had a son at Tennessee when I was there. If you were recently had played soccer.
Yeah, both those guys played soccer, but yeah, they're neither one of them's doing that now. The one at SMU is on the water ski team, if you can believe that. So it's not,
there's a competitive water ski team.
Oh yeah. Hey, yeah. Texas and Texas A&M are good. We saw them at the regionals. You got Baylor's got a team. I mean, it's pretty fun. It was in Katy, Texas.
Yeah.
Where the regionals.
Do they do this like Ben-Hur, where there's like laps and they have to like knock each other off?
It's what is it? It's slalom where they go around buoys, and then there's tricks where they jump and do flips behind the boat, and then there's jumping where some of those guys will jump 140, 150 feet in the air off of the ramp. It's pretty. I don't have a clue how they score it, but I kind of wish I'd have done it in college after being there. So I don't know.
You thought our competitive synchronized swimming was impressive.
Well, no, I thought it was enjoyable. All right. Well, that's amazing. Ben, thank you for joining us. Nice to hear the stories.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for what you guys do with us. I mean, honestly, we couldn't do it without you. I mean, you got to have the info. And like I say, we've had exposure to over a dozen different systems, and this one is as good as any. But the service is the big difference. Like you guys really, you care about what you're doing, and you help us along. And that's really what it's all about. So thank you for that. And I did poll our entire team this morning to make sure when I said that was true, and that is true. And I think it's one thing to come from me who's only using like a high level of the stuff, right? But the guys that are in it day to day and are using the system are pretty complimentary. So and if you get that from an ERP system, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, yeah, thanks, Ben.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Build Your Way podcast. You can subscribe. You can find us on all the major platforms. And until next time, we'll see you later.